Right now, a single software developer is generating the equivalent output of an entire 45-person engineering department.
It's unbelievable.
It really is. And the truly terrifying part, the human eyes checking that code are just rapidly disappearing. Welcome, everyone, to Tech Daily.AI. I'm your host, David, and joining me today to, untangle this massive shift in how our digital world is built is our expert, Sophia.
Hey, thanks. It is a profound transition we are watching unfold in real time.
You can sponsor this podcast for just $25. Your message will be featured across major platforms like Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, and more. If you're interested, visit techdaily.ai to get started today.
Awesome.
So today we're looking at 2 years of newly aggregated data that reveals, exactly how AI coding tools are fundamentally altering human output.
Radically altering it.
Right. Our mission today is to uncover the hidden behaviors, the astronomical costs, and these completely unexpected new habits of modern software developers.
Yeah.
If you use technology at all, the foundation of how it gets built behind the scenes just completely fractured and reassembled itself.
Yeah, we are tracking a complete paradigm shift in the upper limits of, individual human capability. The traditional constraints of software development, the time it takes to type, to structure logic, to search for syntax, all of that is being eradicated.
Just gone.
Completely gone. But as the data shows, removing those constraints creates an entirely new set of bizarre bottlenecks.
Yeah, and the numbers we have here are completely staggering. So let's just start with raw volume to understand the sheer scale of this shift.
Let's do it.
According to the telemetry, the median developer, so just your everyday coder sitting in a desk, is generating about 700 lines of code per week using these AI tools.
Which is pretty standard.
Yeah, that feels grounded, where you write some features, fix a couple of bugs, run some tests, but then you look at the 90th percentile of users, and that output jumps to around 9,000 lines of code a week.
That alone breaks most historical models of productivity. A tenfold increase over the median suggests the tool is no longer just assisting the developer, it's actually doing the heavy lifting of the drafting process.
It's writing it for them.
Exactly.
But wait, it gets crazier. The top 1% of users, the P99 power users, they're creating between 30,000 and 40,000 lines of code per week.
It's just massive.
Let that sink in for a moment for everyone listening. One single person is typing out the equivalent volume of a medium-sized engineering department every 5 days.
Every single week.
Right. And I look at those numbers, and my immediate suspicion is, well, they must be doing that behavior called token maxing.
Yeah, token maxing.
For anyone listening who isn't familiar, that is when a developer essentially games the AI, right? They get it to spit out incredibly bloated, verbose code.
Yeah.
Just to, inflate their personal productivity metrics on a company leaderboard.
Right, trying to look like the ultimate 10x developer.
Exactly. Are these developers building a highly tuned engine or just running a factory that churns out random parts? Are they just generating bulky greenfield code, writing massive new files from scratch? Because it's easier for the AI to do that than to carefully weave a small change into a complex library.
Yeah.
They could be generating 45 times as many bugs without adding real business value.
It's so easy to assume volume inherently lacks value, and that is the exact trap traditional tech management is falling into right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, while gamification certainly exists, assuming those 40,000 lines are purely malicious just misses the broader architectural reality.
Sure.
Well, these developers aren't just trying to look busy. They are encountering a new friction point. When you ask an AI to build a complex feature, it often generates the entire structure, the interfaces, the boilerplate, state management, error handling all at once.
Right, it just dumps the whole thing on your screen.
Exactly. The human isn't typing it, but they are orchestrating it. The real issue isn't whether the code is bloated. It's what happens to the rest of the company when one person wields the raw volume of an entire department.
Meaning they become a massive bottleneck for quality assurance.
Precisely. Think about it. How do you measure velocity in a sprint planning meeting when one developer might drop 40,000 lines of code into the central repository by Friday?
You can't.
No. Traditional code review processes completely buckle under that sheer weight. You cannot ask a colleague to read 40,000 lines of logic over their lunch break to make sure it doesn't break the payment gateway, right?
Right. It would take weeks.
Exactly. The volume just destroys the human review pipeline.
Which leads me to my next question. If a single person is orchestrating that much output, how is the AI actually keeping up with the context?
That is the million-dollar question.
Right, because to write 40,000 relevant lines, The machine can't just guess what your software does. It has to know the system intimately. And that brings us to the token usage data, which, I gotta say, completely subverts how we think these code generators actually work.
Yeah, we call them generators, but the telemetry reveals they are primarily doing something else entirely.
Let's define token quickly,
Ah.
because we hear that word thrown around endlessly in AI spaces. Practically speaking, what does a token represent for these coding agents?
So a token is essentially a fragment of a word or a piece of programming syntax. It is the fundamental unit of data that a large language model uses to process and compute meaning.
Okay.
When an AI reads a file or writes a line of code, it is basically calculating the mathematical relationships between these tokens.
With that in mind, you would naturally assume, the vast majority of the computing power is going toward outputting those tokens,
Generating the code.
actually generating the code.
Right.
But the data shows that 90% of token usage is actually input tokens.
80%.
Right. The AI is spending 90% of its processing bandwidth just reading the existing code base, absorbing the documentation, analyzing the file structure. Spitting out the final code is a tiny, almost microscopic minority of its workload.
Because the machine has to load the entire structural context of your application into its working memory before it can confidently write a single relevant function.
It has to know everything first.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It needs to know how your database is structured, what security protocols are active, what legacy systems it needs to interact with.
It's acting more like a meticulous scholar in a massive library than a hyperactive typewriter.
That's a great way to put it.
Like, it spends hours pulling down dusty volumes, cross-referencing indexes, reading through massive chapters of context, all just to write a single paragraph summary. I mean, if you're listening and you have ever spent 3 hours digging through dense corporate documents and ancient chat logs just so you could confidently send a one-line email to your boss, you know exactly how this AI operates.
The irony here is just beautiful. Back in 2008, a software engineer named Robert C. Martin, widely known as Uncle Bob, published a seminal book called Clean Code.
Oh, classic.
Right, and he famously noted that the ratio of time humans spend reading code versus writing it is well over 10 to 1.
Wow.
We spend our days reading and rereading old logic just to figure out where a new line belongs.
That is wild.
Yeah.
We spent decades analyzing human developers, arrived at this 10 to 1 reading to writing ratio, and then we built incredibly advanced neural networks, set them loose in our software, and they immediately adopt the exact same ratio.
Because the nature of software development does not change just because the statistical model is executing it. Reading and comprehending state and logic is inherently more computationally demanding than the physical act of writing the syntax. A classic 2008 human engineering principle perfectly dictates the token behavior of a modern AI agent.
But there is a massive financial catch to that scholarly behavior. Because the AI is reading so much, the raw economics of running these tools efficiently reveals, like, a hidden battlefield.
Oh, absolutely.
If you are a company paying for this compute, moving from the theory of token behavior to the raw mechanics of API costs is terrifying.
It is an environment where organizations can and will bankrupt themselves overnight if they misunderstand how the models bill for their time.
Let's break down the pricing structures in the data.
Hmm.
Take the Opus 4.7 model, for example. It charges 5 times more for output tokens than for input tokens.
Right.
You are paying $25 per 1 million output tokens compared to just $5 per 1 million input tokens. On a pricing page, it looks like generating the code is the expensive part.
It's a bit of an illusion.
Exactly. Yeah. Because input tokens completely dominate the usage. That 90% reading stat we just talked about, those cheaper input tokens end up accounting for nearly 70% of the total AI costs.
Because every single time a developer asks the AI to add, say, a simple button to a user interface, the system might have to reread the entire history of the website's front-end code base at $5 a million tokens.
Over and over.
Yeah, if you have 100 developers making 50 requests a day, your operating costs skyrocket exponentially just on the AI reading the same files from scratch.
So how are the major platforms avoiding this financial collapse? The data highlights the implementation of smart caching, but what is the actual mechanism there? Because if it's just, saving a text file to code base, that doesn't explain the massive drop in processing costs.
Right, it's not just saving text. We are talking about key value caching, or KV caching.
Okay, what is that?
When the large language model reads your codebase the first time, it converts all that text into complex mathematical representations, vector embedding, so it understands the context.
Oh, so it turns words into math.
Exactly. And that conversion process is what costs so much compute. Smart caching stores those mathematical computations. So the next time the developer asks a question, the model doesn't have to reread and recompute the raw text. It just recalls the math.
It's like having a photographic memory of a textbook.
Yeah.
You don't have to buy the book and read it from page one every single time you need to recall a fact. Is context reuse the ultimate secret weapon for the future of AI?
It absolutely is. And the numbers on this are wild. When this caching layer is implemented properly, raw output tokens drop to a microscopic 0.6% of the system's total activity.
Less than 1%.
Less than 1%. Meanwhile, cache reads take up 90%, cache writes take up 2.5%, and raw, fresh input drops down to just 7%. Less than 1% of the system's workload is actually typing out the final result.
That is insane.
Mastering that infrastructure is the only way these tools survive. Building what we call the agent harness, which is the invisible architectural layer that surrounds the AI model, decides what context to feed it, what to cache, what to flush from memory, is incredibly complex.
So you can't just plug and play.
No. Any corporate IT department thinking they can build their own internal AI coding tool just by hooking up an API to a basic chat interface is in for a brutal awakening. Without mastering that caching layer, they will be paying the machine to read the exact same book from scratch, millions of times a day.
And knowing that running these tools is wildly expensive and caching is basically mandatory, we have to look at how the actual models stack up against each other, because every executive reading these reports is just looking for a bargain to cut costs.
Right, and bargains in enterprise AI are almost always a false economy, as the performance metrics clearly demonstrate.
Let's look at the heavy hitters. Opus 4.7 is widely considered the most capable model available right now, but it carries a premium price tag.
Very premium.
It is nearly 10 times more expensive per agent request than the Composer 2.5 model and about twice as expensive as GPT 5.5.
Right. And as a quick note, if you are wondering where models like Google's Gemini or Grok fit into this data, they were omitted simply because their active usage in these specific developer workflows is incredibly sparse at the moment.
Makes sense. But focusing on those top three, the immediate temptation for a business owner is to say, well, Composer 2.5 is 10 times cheaper than Opus. Let's just deploy that across the entire engineering floor.
Which is a huge mistake. You cannot evaluate cost per request in a vacuum when evaluating autonomous agents. The critical missing variable is the quality of the generated logic.
Because it's like buying a discount power tool that ruins half your materials.
Yeah.
Right? Are you really saving money if you have to throw away the work?
Exactly.
And this data introduces a metric that changes the entire conversation, which is cost per line added, or more specifically, the cost per line accepted.
This is the real metric.
It completely exposes the cheaper models. When you only measure the code that a human developer actually accepted and merged into the final project, Opus 4.7 has the exact same cost per line accepted as the cheaper GPT 5.5.
It's amazing.
And that Composer model, the one that looked 10 times cheaper up front, it turns out it's only 5 times as efficient when you factor in how much of his code just gets thrown in the trash.
Because it quantifies the financial cost of being wrong. Cheaper models struggle with complex architectural reasoning. They hallucinate non-existent APIs. They introduce subtle logical bugs. They write sloppy state management.
Using a cheap model for complex enterprise software isn't just about bad code. I mean, it's like hiring an incredibly fast, wildly overconfident intern.
That is the perfect analogy.
Sure, they finish the ticket in 10 minutes, but they confidently hallucinate half the architecture. And then you end up spending 3 hours untangling their intricate mistakes, rejecting the work, rewriting the prompt, and making them do it again.
Exactly. You are bleeding money in human review time and wasted compute just to save fractions of a cent on the initial request. You would have saved money just paying a senior engineer or a premium model to do it right the first time.
So what's the solution for companies then?
It points to intelligent task routing as the inevitable future for mid-sized and enterprise companies. You do not deploy a single model. You build a routing layer that analyzes the complexity of the developer's prompt.
Wait, so the system decides how smart the AI needs to be before it answers?
Exactly. If the router detects a prompt asking to generate boilerplate unit tests or update simple documentation, it routes that request to a cheaper model like Composer 2.5 because the risk of failure is practically zero.
Oh, that's clever.
But if the developer asks the agent to refactor a core payment gateway state machine, the router automatically escalates the task to Opus 4.7. You reserve the expensive, highly capable computational power strictly for the critical path where high acceptance rates and deep architectural understanding are absolutely mandatory.
That makes perfect sense for balancing a budget. But that entire routing strategy relies on one massive load-bearing assumption.
That people are paying attention.
Yes. It assumes that human developers are actually carefully reviewing the work these models produce. And that leads us to the most shocking behavioral shift in this entire stack of data.
It really is the single data point that fundamentally alters the risk profile of modern digital infrastructure.
A massive change occurred very suddenly, right around March 2026. This perfectly correlates with the widespread release of those highly capable models we just talked about, Opus 4.7 and GPT 5.5.
Right.
Before March, about 10% of developers were letting AI agents create commits without any manual review. In just a single month, that number jumped to an astonishing 40%.
40%.
40% of developers are now letting the AI write code, commit it, and push it directly into the system without ever looking at the syntax.
It represents a profound cultural leap of faith.
It's insane.
The developers have experienced this new generation of models, they have seen the high acceptance rates, and they have collectively concluded that handwriting code and even manually reviewing every line of generated syntax is just a dying art.
I am purely astonished by this. I mean,
Yeah.
if you are listening to this right now, think about the applications on your phone. The banking software that holds your mortgage, the healthcare portals securing your medical records.
The stakes are incredibly high.
They are, and the people building those systems are actively stepping away from the keyboard. It's like letting a self-driving car take the wheel while you take a nap in the back seat, except in this case, the car is building enterprise software. Are we officially witnessing the death of writing code by hand?
We are witnessing the death of the manual, line-by-line syntax generation that really defined the last 50 years of software engineering. The capability of the models is simply too high for developers to justify the time spent manually typing.
But where is the safety net if no one is reading the code?
There isn't one.
None.
None. When 40% of code changes are entering enterprise systems completely unchecked by human eyes, organizations are accumulating technical debt at a scale and speed that is historically unprecedented.
That's terrifying.
We are trusting the architectural integrity of our global digital world to statistical probability.
Right.
The model might get the logic perfectly right 95% of the time, but that 5% failure rate is no longer being caught by a human reviewer. It is slipping directly into production systems.
It's an invisible rot in the foundation of the house. You won't know the structural integrity is compromised until the floor completely caves in.
Because the AI does not understand the business implications of a poorly optimized database query, it only knows that the syntax complies with the language rules and compiles successfully.
It doesn't know the context of the real world.
Exactly. If a human isn't checking the broader context, that slightly inefficient query could easily bring down the entire company's database during a massive traffic spike on Black Friday. We are trading immediate developmental velocity for long-term systemic fragility.
Wow. Let's take a step back and look at the incredible journey we've just charted today. We started by looking at the emergence of the true supercoder individuals generating an unbelievable 40,000 lines of code every single week, doing the physical work of 45 median developers.
It's just mind-blowing volume.
And we unpacked the hidden mechanics making this possible, specifically that fascinating 10-to-1 ratio, where the AI functions like a meticulous scholar, spending 90% of its processing power just reading and understanding the code base before it ever writes a single line.
Right, and we examine the massive hidden costs of all that machine reading and how implementing KV caching in the agent harness is really the only architectural defense preventing total financial collapse for these platforms.
Yeah, and we saw how relying on cheap models is often a false economy when you calculate the true cost of generating code that a human will actually accept, which leads to a future of intelligent task routing.
The only way forward.
Which brought us to the final jaw-dropping reality, the trust leap. As of early 2026, 40% of developers have simply stopped checking the AI's work before committing it.
It is an entirely new era of software development, moving at a velocity that traditional management frameworks are entirely unequipped to handle.
It really is. And I want to leave you with one final, slightly chilling thought to mull over. We know that right now, 40% of everyday developers aren't checking their code. But remember those top 1% supercoders we talked about at the very beginning?
Oh, the power users.
Yeah, the power users generating 40,000 lines of logic a week. What happens when they stop reviewing their commits? How does a company ever audit, debug, or secure a million-line software system that was entirely written and only truly understood by a machine?
That is the trillion-dollar question the industry has to answer next.
Thanks for joining us on this exploration. Keep questioning the systems running the world around you, and we'll catch you next time.